it's that whole thing of, if 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 you strip people of the ability to think on their own, you can literally take them towards any, you can literally build any creation out of them. You know what I'm saying? And you know, when you take away self-worth and replace it with maybe ego and materialistic pursuit, I mean, that's what you get. And that's where I think you find people having a hard time with balancing the sense that makes none in the world that surrounds them and with the world that is within them.
Welcome to Shine in the Light. My name is S.E. Walibwa, and my guest today is one and the only, A.t.i. His fans call him Lekete Leliton. Many people believe that he is the greatest musical talent to come out of Botswana in recent times. He has hits like Polo Morale and Dumela and many more. I call him Mr. Energy, my nephew. What's going on, A.t.i.?
And I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. Let's get right into this thing. How did you handle the pandemic? Are you still handling it?
Well, I mean, the pandemic wasn't. I don't think it was really anything along the lines of handling it, but just a matter of endurance. Hella, just like any other life challenge that can come along the way, and one having to just make an acceptance of what the status quo of what's uncontrollable is.
Yeah. I mean, like, you were still doing your thing during the pandemic. But let's
Yes.
talk about where you grew up, man. You grew up in Surowe or in Gabs? Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a lot of places. I grew up in Surowe, Molepolle, Lerala, Mahalape, Machaning, Gaborone, Lubatse. So I've been all over.
I can only think that, the reason why you probably, went around the whole country is because maybe your parents were teachers. Because my mother was a teacher, and we were just like, whenever, she's transferred somewhere, we have to pack and go.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Was that the case with you, or?
Yeah, my mom was a teacher. And then also, I mean, I grew up with my grandmother. My grandmother was a matron. So,
But
I
you from
gotta be more studying. Guy.
but you're from
Yeah.
Surowe originally?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about when I'm thinking about Surowe, right? How do you feel about your chief Ian Kama now is in South Africa? Your thought on
Well, I
that?
don't.
You think about what to miss him or?
Well, I haven't really paid close attention because, like you said, that whole pandemic thing, it brought people into a space of more into looking more at themselves in whatever aspect, either it being about self-preservation or needing to be more of a helping hand to others. So, but I wouldn't say I am cognizant of what it is that they feel about the whole situation, or people are just too busy with maybe trying to get themselves into a better space within their lives.
You know what's really striking and unbelievable about you is the way you can actually rap and sing. Kind of reminds me of the great Lauryn Hill, Andre 3000, Wyclef, Queen Latifah. So when did you realize that you have this explosive talent in you?
I think for me, it's a matter of just maybe coming into the recognition of the fact that maybe we're capable of anything we set our mind towards. But for me, I mean, with the music, it was just a thing of just maybe finding something that I could do that could maybe compensate for the for the boredom of the time that I was in as a kid. You know, when you're a kid, you're given the opportunity to maybe craft what it is that you want to be, the kind of person that you want to be. And I think for me, I found myself just having to encounter more of melodies and sounds and music. And I think that's where I started to maybe focus more what it is that I could maybe unlock within myself, you know. And I think the good thing about music is, you know, it's vibrations, and vibrations are in almost every aspect of any aspect of life. Uh,
I like when you talk about vibrations because I know you're gonna talk about energy later on. You know.
okay.
So when did you start really doing your music though? Like when you were like 14, 15, 16?
Yes, around those ages. Well, I started first and foremost, like
Mhm,
Modi talent show and stuff like that.
mhm,
The variety show where
mhm.
one could come and showcase their talent and stuff like that. That's why I basically began, because there weren't many opportunities where one could quite necessarily get their whole music explorative side going on. So it was mostly these talent shows and so forth where one could maybe have a chance and opportunity to try to do such. Yeah.
Yeah, but did you get support from home? Because a lot of our parents, you know, when it comes to things like music, they sometimes they don't understand that this could be your career. You know?
Well, I mean, you need to also put into the appreciation basket of the fact that music is not something saying what a lot of people quite understand from an entrepreneurial point of view. Alan. So I
Hmm.
think that's why it's important most of the time to appreciate the fact that you have a roof over your head, and any other thing else will only come out at a later time based on the fact that you're in it for the long haul as well, you know, because it's not really a matter of support, because your greatest supporter needs to be you.
Mm.
And when other people get to also recognize that, that creates a paradigm shift of people actually noticing, oh, okay, this thing is actually feasible. We could actually look into maybe growing it and nurturing it.
Yeah,
That's why in everything that every solution that we have today, there has to be a pioneer. Uh,
yeah. No, I get it, man. I get it because a lot of, especially young people, they seem to shun process sometime, you know. So
yeah,
it's not always like about, you know, I want to get fruits right now. It's about the journey, right? It's about the journey.
yeah.
So how do you spend your day, man? You know, how do you plan your day? Do you have goals? Like, do you write goals? Like, you know, on Thursday I'm gonna be doing this, I'm gonna be doing that.
Well, for me, it's like, you know, mine is more a generational goal, you know, and I think the way in which maybe I experience the whole actualization and uh, play out of what it is that I maybe wrote down and jotted down and wanted to experience is at a point whereby it's more about the creative and the creation aspect of it, as opposed to where I'm quite sitting down and trying to maybe approach the whole thing as a as a as a quantity of products that I need to execute and deliver
Mhm.
based on demand and supply, but however, in a more aspect of a scientist still in the lab and still trying to put the chlorophyll into into the iodine and stuff like that. So that's where I'm at basically. And then in as far as how the days pan out,
Mhm.
healing is one of them. You know, self introspection and so forth. Some of the the stages that I'm currently in. But telling me on a 10 year, 5 year, 10 year like many year basis. I mean, the goal has always been to uh, get to that point of being balanced, and possibly becoming an instrument that can help another person, becoming the help that maybe I at some point in time needed. Yeah,
That's great, man. You said you spend a lot of time in the house
yeah,
by yourself, and sometimes could be overwhelming
yeah.
because you overthink, right?
And for me, it's highly imperative that I spend most times, especially in this stage of my life, alone to understand myself, because I've gone through that phase of always having people around me and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
I've now got to
And I'm
a
pretty sure
crossroad
they've
of having,
go ahead,
pardon?
go ahead, go ahead. I'm gonna let you talk.
Yeah, I'm now at a crossroad where I need to know basically who I am, to not be conflicted by how others may behave, so that I'm not finding myself veering off into other people's maybe projections and expectations of me. And that takes a great amount of work, more especially based on the reality of the scope of my work. It reaches out to so many people, and you can imagine the amount of energy pull that one could experience when a lot of people have you on their mind, um, either out of the fact that you inspire them, or others still within that dark phase in their lives where they need to come into the actualization of who they are. So if I envious people or jealous people aren't jealous because they choose to, but it's just uh, a nudge or a trigger to call oneself into understanding themselves, and learning to let things be, and understanding that another person's level of where they are in life is totally not intimidative of where you find yourself if you try. Yeah,
Love it, man. I love it, man. And I'm asking you this question because and I'm not saying I'm not equating you, and I'm not really comparing you with Jesus Christ. But I remember that Jesus Christ will be with the crowd for the most part, right? Like doing what he had to do, but he will also withdraw
yeah,
from them, right? And go to the mountain and spend time by himself, right? Like when he comes out, he has a lot of energy. So sometimes I'm like,
yeah,
okay, ATI say he spends a lot of time by himself, but when I see him out there in the crowd, he has a lot of energy, man. So because
yeah,
I know that the crowd can take, suck energy out of you because you are a giving person, right? You're
yeah.
really a giving. You give yourself to folks. So,
Mm.
do you think people understand that though?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting for you to even
Mhm.
bring the comparison of Jesus into our conversation, because the way we read Bible as a life manuscript is on a fairy tale basis, but instead of looking at maybe the behavior traits that brought the person that people hold so highly, such as Jesus, or maybe if we literally maybe emulated the positive things that we can pick out of the Bible, as opposed to it being about hell or heaven, it being moved towards how could I maybe move in a way that could make myself happy. Because where any giving is taking place, there is definitely a need for replenishment. Our There is definitely a need for rejuvenation. And rejuvenation or healing doesn't happen at the rate that we expect it to, but at the rate at which one is mostly focused and allowing of it to actually pan out without the control of impatience.
Love it, man. I love it, man. So what do you think is your purpose here on, I mean, you might have addressed it already,
Hmm.
but what do you think is your purpose here on earth, especially in regard to your music?
Well, I mean, I think my purpose is whatever I felt maybe I could have maybe felt a bit more at ease had I had an access to such kind of knowledge, that I think I still continue to walk the journey of accumulating the wisdom of how to move about.
Mm-hmm.
So my purpose is basically, you know, to me to others, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I love it, man. I saw a clip where you talk about facing your fears.
Hmm.
Actually, you said that, facing your fears, that's how that can bring joy. Like really
Yeah.
facing your fears rather than, running away from your fears. Can you please expound on this? Because maybe even me, I can learn something from that.
And fear is I think it's a is an instinctive part, but at the same time, it's like, it's it's a matter of anybody who has useful information, because all the information we need is out there. I think it's a matter of just knowing which aligns with you and plays well within the walk that you're walking. So for me, it's like, information can either be good or bad. Same
Hmm.
applies to a knife. You can either cut carrots and onions with it or kill somebody with it. I want.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for one to not live in a state of fear, because when you switch on the news, it's all fear. Like the world is just created or programmed in such a way to exude, to stimulate
Hmm.
or seduce, wait,
Yeah.
sedate people into a state of fear, a state of passiveness,
Hmm.
ignorance, and
Mm.
just never daring to know the beyond the recommendation of never try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
So I
guess
think fear, it's
Mhm.
good in the sense of averting danger, actual
Mhm.
danger, as opposed to it now being a constant uh, ringing siren that even where it's unnecessary, it's now blocking people from exploring more than what they've been apportioned to be an acre of exploration within this vast and limitless world we live in.
Yeah. And how do you derive your happiness?
Well, it's happiness and sadness are like balance, like I said, and they're not a destination. It's something you always need to always. It's like driving. Yeah, you need to drive into it. Uh,
Yeah, you talked about the people, the world being bombarded by news and all that kind of stuff, and I'm with you, man. I'm with you. There's a lot of fear. A lot of what we hear from, especially the news, is it's just driven by fear. You know,
yeah.
and I want to ask you what we've been hearing, and I think you heard this before yourself, or you've been
Mhm.
hearing lately about Kanye West. What do you think about the
Uh-huh.
whole Kanye West debacle?
Well, I don't want to say much into it, but I do believe like it's still news. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
as to what it's meant to portray, or what it's meant to induce, is something that I wouldn't quite necessarily be interested in finding out. But I can tell you, Kanye West has been an inspiration to a lot of artists in the music sector. But what is happening right now uh, is none of my business, and my focus is basically on what I want to experience. But Kanye is Kanye, and Kanye West is in a multi-trillion dollar industry that can play Jedi mind tricks in so many ways. I want.
Yeah, yeah, like you're saying, the world is bombarding us with all kinds of fears and trauma, right? And
And
I
what
think,
to focus on.
yeah, and I think if you're not really deriving your happiness and joy from inside, and you taking from the outside, that can actually traumatize you. So
Hmm.
that's why I think you see a lot of people depressed, you know,
Yeah,
um, and traumatized. So,
yeah.
so how do you handle depression yourself?
I just I just go through it. when you go to sleep and you wake up, you're good. Sleep is like medicine,
Mm-hmm.
basically for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep. Just go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
so when was the last time you were really depressed?
Mm, I wouldn't say really depressed, but with every ounce of exertion of myself into the world, be it maybe a project, and it does good.
Mm-hmm.
The downturn of it is going to be the different energies that you're going to experience. Some being happy for you, some projecting negative energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a constant thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I get it. I get it. I
yeah,
get it. I like your answers, man. So you talk a lot about energy. I mentioned energy earlier on, and you said
yeah,
energy. You said life is energy. So what do you mean by this? Can you? You said you can create with energy.
very important to be careful of what you maybe focus on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't mean be perfect, but when you find yourself veering off and also looking at the magnitude of of the domino effect from every move you make,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to be quite picky on what it is that you choose to focus on and what people kind of like drop into your mind, because some people are great manifestors. You know what I'm saying? So as a
Mm-hmm.
great manifestor, you'd you'd usually be bombarded by people who drop information in your head so that maybe you create either negative scenarios
Mm-hmm.
that aren't in your best interest, or scenarios that people might genuinely think are of the best ways to go about something that is literally and specifically in need of your very own individual DNA output and outlook on. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so with this social media new era, it's like variables are now being taken away. Everything is becoming the same. You know what I'm saying? You look at the new line of cars that come out. Every car looks like any other car. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in fact, I mean, metaphorically speaking, you would say it is the new world order. Where
Mm-hmm.
everything is the same. Awan, all under one one narrow path of ideology and outlook and basis on things. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the most amazing time to maybe have a different outlook on life, if there's ever been a time when things had to really stand on why they are different. Because even puzzles, you won't find any two-piece puzzle looking like the other. That
Mm.
difference is the one that actually paints the bigger picture. And I think that's the thing that we need to be rooted more in. Uh,
Yeah, no, no, that's awesome, man. When you were talking, I was thinking about African spirituality.
yeah.
Do you think because sometimes when you tell people, especially when you live around the place where we live right now, when you tell
Mm,
people that our people can heal, man,
mm,
but at the same time I feel like we have lost that thing. It seems like our healing powers have been demonized. Therefore, a lot of people who have the capacity and who are able to do that are not actually doing that.
yeah.
You know, your thought on that? Because
But
I.
I mean,
Mhm,
it's that whole thing of if 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 you strip people of the ability to think on their own, you can literally take them towards any. You can literally build any creation out of them. You know what I'm saying? And you know, when you take away self worth and replace it with maybe ego and materialistic pursuit, I mean
mhm,
that's what you get. And that's where I think you find people having a hard time with balancing the sense that makes none in the world that surrounds them and with the world that is within them. So it's a matter of things having to hit rock bottom to burn completely, or people having to remember that. Because either way, still, I mean, it's it's a downward spiral that still requires people to come into the acceptance of having to remember and appreciate what they might maybe perceive as little and not worth not worth uh, preserving and storing for later use. But in
Right.
Maryland, it's still gonna come down to there because you can only abuse anything to a certain extent before the victim eventually becomes unable to take any. Uh, I mean, we've seen it in so many civilizations that came to an end,
Right.
but life goes on. Yeah,
Let's talk a let's talk a little bit about your music, man. I was listening to
yeah,
your song Dumele. You know,
yeah.
I think this is an amazing song. Ga ke na tumelo, ga ke dumele, ga ke dumele.
Mm.
What was the inspiration behind this, man?
Well, basically, I think it's for me. It was like anything that needs to be believed in,
Mhm,
anything that needs to be believed in, that needs some level or sense of belief,
mhm,
would instantly render it to be taken for further analysis.
uh-huh,
Because if it is what it is, then it is what it is, as opposed to it being having to be given room to be believed, as if there's like room for it to be untrue or faulty or false.
mhm,
So in this regard, I was just talking about the approach or attachment style that people have, be it in work relationships or intimate relationships and so forth. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
So with me affirming to my disbelief of the need to believe,
mhm,
I think it was more of me believing more in letting things pan out how they would. You know what I'm saying? If something is meant to go the way it's meant to go, it's gonna go that way. But telling me the way I know creation and just life how it is like, even if there are moments of chaos, there's still beauty at the other end of every chaotic
right.
experience. Yeah.
You were advising you were talking to some of your fellow artists. I think it was in May or June or July,
Yeah.
and you were telling them that uh, don't just make music for the sake of making. You have to make the music for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing with music is, and the reason why it's like,
Because when I
uh,
listen to your music, man, I can just hear everything. I can hear that there's equity in this music. You know what I mean? There's
um,
also there's vision in this music. There are reasons. It resonate. Let me put it in the lamest term. It resonate. You
yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like, music is or art is something that is basically there in the world to liberate people. You know what I'm saying? And like any other medicine, if you use it for any other reason other than that of why it was created, there's bound to be imbalances. That's why you have other artists who maybe fall into the trap of being egotistic, becoming slaves of fame and stuff like that. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying?
mm.
And even that, the inability to explain and express to people that, yo, at the end of the day, we're all human.